Welcome to the Audit Guidebook. If you're an accounting student, a new auditor, or even a seasoned pro looking for a solid refresher, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down a concept that is, and I mean this, the absolute bedrock of any financial audit: audit assertions. Let's get right into it.
Just so you know, this explainer is a key piece of our Module 1 series, which is all about building that foundational audit knowledge from the ground up. So here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with the big question: what even are assertions? Then, we'll break down the three main categories. And finally, this is the best part, we'll see how it all works in the real world. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how these concepts connect to an auditor's daily job.
Okay, first things first. What are audit assertions? And really, why do we call them the foundation of the audit? Let's find out.
You know, in the simplest terms, when a company issues its financial statements, its management isn't just handing over a bunch of numbers. They are making a series of claims, or assertions, about those numbers. These are the built-in promises that everything you see has been recorded, measured, and presented by the book.
So, why is this such a big deal? Well, think of assertions as the auditor's roadmap. They would allow us to identify potential risks, to design very specific tests to find misstatements, and ultimately, to gather all the evidence we need to form our final audit opinion. Honestly, without assertions, an audit would just be aimless.
All right, let's get into our first category. We're talking about assertions that relate to transactions and events. You know, the stuff that happens during the year. This is really the world of the income statement, so think revenues and expenses.
First up is occurrence. This one asks a really simple but incredibly important question. Did this actually happen? The biggest risk here, of course, is a company overstating its sales by recording fake transactions. So an auditor has to confirm that every single sale on the books actually corresponds to a real product shipped to a real customer.
Now, the flip side of occurrence is completeness. Here, the worry isn't about what's in the books, but what's been left out. Did the company conveniently forget to record some expenses, or maybe some liabilities? The risk is that the company looks healthier than it really is by understating what it owes.
Then we've got accuracy. This one's pretty straightforward. Are the numbers right? You'd be surprised how a simple typo or a small miscalculation can spiral into a major issue. Auditors spend a lot of time making sure the amount on, say, a supplier invoice is exactly what got typed into the system.
Cutoff is all about timing. It's crucial that transactions are recorded in the right period. This becomes a huge deal around year-end. You know, a company might be tempted to pull some sales from January into December to hit a target. Proper cutoff procedures stop that from happening.
And the last one for this group is classification. This is all about making sure transactions are put in the right buckets. For instance, a big repair bill should be an expense for this year. It can't be disguised as an asset that gets slowly depreciated over time. That would completely distort the company's profitability and its assets.
Okay, let's switch gears. We've talked about the flow of transactions. Now let's look at the snapshot in time, the balance sheet. These assertions are all about the assets, liabilities, and equity balances at the end of the period. Kicking things off here is existence. It's a lot like occurrence, but for the balance sheet. Does that inventory listed on the books actually exist in a warehouse somewhere? Is the cash balance they're reporting actually sitting in a bank account? It's a fundamental reality check.
Next up is rights and obligations, which is all about ownership. Does the company actually have the legal right to the assets it's claiming? A classic example is inventory held on consignment. That stuff belongs to the supplier, so it shouldn't be on the company's balance sheet. Same goes for liabilities. They have to be actual obligations of the company. And here it is again, completeness. For account balances, this means making sure all the assets and liabilities that should be on the books are. The biggest fear here is usually unrecorded liabilities. Things like an outstanding loan that management might hope you just forget about.
Now for a big one where a lot of judgment comes in: valuation and allocation. This asks if the assets and liabilities are on the books at the right amount. And this goes way beyond just simple math. We're talking about estimates, like the allowance for doubtful accounts or how quickly an asset depreciates. The auditor's job is to really scrutinize if those estimates are reasonable.
All right, our final category deals with how all this financial information is actually presented and disclosed. We're talking about the notes to the financial statements, the part that tells the full story behind the numbers.
And you'll see some familiar faces here. The assertions for disclosures are basically mirrors of the ones we've already covered. We're still worried about occurrence and rights, completeness, making sure things are clear and understandable, and of course, accuracy and valuation. It all boils down to a simple truth. Having the right numbers doesn't mean much if the story around them is confusing or incomplete.
Okay, let's tie this all together. Theory is great, but how do auditors actually use this stuff every day? This is where we link these assertions directly to the audit procedures we perform. This table shows the connection perfectly. Take a look. For sales revenue, a huge risk is that the sales are fake, right? So the assertion we focus on is occurrence, and the audit procedure, we vouch invoices back to shipping documents to prove something was actually shipped. Or for accounts payable, the risk is unrecorded debt, so we focus on completeness. And we do that by reviewing supplier statements, looking for things that haven't been recorded. See? Every assertion drives the specific work the auditor does. And that brings me to a final question for you to think about. In our modern, super digital world with things like cryptocurrency and complex online systems, which one of these assertions do you think is becoming the toughest for auditors to test? Is it proving the existence and valuation of a digital asset? Or maybe ensuring the completeness of millions of automated transactions? It's definitely something to chew on.
And that is a wrap on Audit Assertions. Thank you so much for joining us. If you found this explainer helpful, please do me a favor and hit that like button, and definitely subscribe to the Audit Guidebook channel. We've got a lot more content coming to help you on your professional journey. We'll see you in the next one.